first discussion with one of them, in my culture, when you are responding to someone in affirmation, so in affirmation, I mean, when you are saying yes to someone's discussion, you will nod your head like this, okay? But my discussion with my Indian classmate, and he kept doing his head like this, yes, yes, yes. So I wasn't really sure whether he was responding to my, whether he's saying yes or no, until I got to know that this is the culture in India. People say yes and they do their head like this. But from my own country, we say yes and we do our heads like this. It's good to know, right? Different culture and different ways people respond to things. The second cultural, not shock, but encounter with an Indian is a bit quite recently. So that's with an Indian professor. So we had a paper we did together. We had a collaboration. And when we had our first review from the reviewers, he sent me an email, and in the email he said, please do the needful. I wasn't sure what he meant by do the needful. From my country, if you are telling someone to do the needful, that means that there is something the person needed to have been, to have done that the person is not doing. So you are kind of nudging the person to come on, do the needful. But I kind of swallowed it. I think maybe, I kind of thought it could be about culture. So I didn't react in any negative form. So I did what I needed to do and then sent to the professor. But much recently, in fact, around October last year, I have this, in my class, I have quite a number of Indian students. I have Vishnu, Visak, Praveen, Poonam, Sundari, Kapil, quite a number of brilliant Indian students. And I had an encounter with Kapil. There is something he needed me to do for him. And then he said in the email, he said, please do the needful. And that reconnected my mind to the discussion I had with the professor. And then I realized that do the needful, it's basically, an Indian kind of discussion to subtly ask someone to do something, instead of from my own country where it's kind of nudging you to do the same thing. So why am I telling these stories? The way we write in academic or scientific settings differ from the way we write to our friends, our family members. So the tone, the syntax, and the vocabulary changes, as the occasion changes. So culture in academic writing is not just about race, where you're from, but it is about style. So the style in writing, for example, in engineering, will be different. Sorry, I have a visitor now. Come and say hi.
Hi. I want to see it.
She's saying hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. No. Sorry about it.
It was lovely watching her.
Mommy, I'm not meeting. Oh, Mommy, I'm not meeting. Listen.
It was lovely watching her, sir, on International Women's Day. It's a blessing.
Yeah, it is. This is the joy of work. Yes.
She's a sweetheart.
she really is. This is the joy of working from home.
Yes,
I can never hide from her. Never. She will always find me out. Yeah. So in terms of writing in academic, the way we write, the style you write in engineering is a bit different from computing or medicine or psychology. But while considering an academic research, first of all, you need to consider your audience. You need to consider the style, what the purpose of that research is, and how you organize your work and the flow of it. Again, that depends on the discipline or the area of study which you are writing in. But in general, in all of this, whether you're writing an engineering article or medicine or psychology, grammar usage is the same across, across the board. And that is our focus today. So we are going to do, I want to get your opinion on what you think makes academic writing efficient. So now I'm going to stop share and then share my my Mentimeter. Hopefully it works. So if you can, please, can you log on to mentimeter.com and use this code 14882552. Just tell me in 3 words what you think makes an academic writing efficient. Over to you. Once you do it, please do click enter. I will post the link here as well. I'll do mine as well. Has anybody succeeded in doing that? Yeah, plagiarism, understanding, explanation, yes, idea. Informative, yes. Original, yeah. Lucid, yeah, informative. Preparation, yes. Analysis, process, yeah. Evaluation of the work, yeah. Okay, for the sake of time, I will have to move on, but these samples that we have here are all great and correct. So I will go back to my PowerPoint and then we, give me 1 second. Great. All right. So all that you've put in there are all correct. But let's look at grammar in terms of the use of voice, whether active or passive. Let's look at verbs, adverbs, adjectives, punctuations, and punctuations. So let's dive deep into each of these. Grammar and voice. In writing, there is what we call active voice and passive voice. And active voice is when the subject of the sentence acts upon the verb, right? So the example I have here is the professor approved the research proposal. In this example, the professor is the subject as well as the actor, and the professor is doing something, doing the verb. The professor approves. But let's look at the passive form of this same text. It says the research proposal was approved by the professor. So in this instance, the subject now becomes the recipient of the action that the verb is performing, right? And in this case, we have an artificial, what we call an artificial subject, the research proposal. However, the action was performed by the professor, and the action was getting the research proposal approved. So in passive voice, the subject is not doing the verb, but the reverse then becomes the case where the verb is actually actioning the subject. So let's put these two things side by side, the passive voice and the active voice, or the active voice and the passive voice. And you see that the active voice presented this same text in a concise and easy to understand. The professor approved the research proposal instead of having a longer text, as the research proposal was approved by the professor. But that brings the question where one can ask, is passive voice not good then in academic writing? No, the answer is no. Active voice is also good in academic writing. But there are situations when we need to use passive voice. And one of them is when we are reporting crimes or incident, and in a situation where you don't know who perpetrated the action, right? For instance, my car was stolen yesterday. Also, in academic context, you can use passive voice. For example, the chart was plotted using Python. We are not bothered about who plotted the chart, but the emphasis is that the chart was plotted using Python. And thirdly, when you want to emphasize an action itself and the doer of that action is irrelevant, like you care less about who actioned that event, but more emphasis on the action itself. For instance, the paper was accepted yesterday. So in this example, we don't care which journal or conference accepted the paper. Our joy, when you have your paper accepted, you are joyful. So the joy is on the acceptance of the paper, and the journal or conference is immaterial. Here we have a list of verbs, action verbs, that I would advise you make use in your. There are lots. There are so many of them, right? But these are just a few examples. We can say that this research suggests that. You can say that the authors posit that. The study proposes. The results show. This article summarizes this, and that, right? So we use action verbs to modify, the noun or pronoun. So we move on to the use of, sometimes people make use of, we've seen so many people make use of nouns as verbs instead of verb themselves. Although the sentence might still make sense in itself, however, changing the verb to noun kind of makes your sentence a bit difficult to read. Let's have a look at this example. The authors made the observation that. It still makes sense, right? but it doesn't sound right. But what if we say the authors observed that? Simple English. We don't need to make it so difficult for your reader to understand. In fact, if I'm reading your article and it's a bit long and difficult to understand, to be honest, it pisses me off. But let's keep it simple and concise. Next, we are going to look at the relationship between subjects and verbs and their usage as well. So the subject of a sentence, the real subject of a sentence, should as well be the grammatical subject. And sometimes you see people bury the subject within the sentence, but not laying emphasis on what the subject is. Let's see this example. Here it says the use of this method would outperform the other methods. See here that the subject of this sentence is use, the use. Although use, as is a verb, right? But it has now been transformed to a noun, the use of this method. However, the emphasis actually should be on method, which is the real subject of the sentence. But how do we transform this long text into a shorter and concise but meaningful sentence? Let's have a look. This method outperforms the other methods. It is simple and understandable. Instead of saying the use of this method would outperform the other methods, we simply make it easy for your readers by saying this method outperforms the other methods. Let's look at more examples of this. So for real verbs, right, try as much as possible to avoid normalized verb. Normalized verb, just as in the previous example that we just saw, is where we transform a verb into a noun, right? So transforming a verb and changing it to a noun makes it normalized, but we should retain the verb as it were and retain the noun as they are. Let's see some of this example. Here we have to conduct an analysis. So instead of saying to conduct an analysis, remember that analysis in this instance can be the verb, right? But instead of saying to conduct an analysis, we can simply say, sorry, let me see. Okay, we can simply say to analyze. We've shortened four word text into two. We can also see to effect a change can easily be transformed to change. Here, the change is the verb, but it has now been normalized and transformed into a noun, a change, an analysis. All these are nouns, but can be easily transformed to verbs. And finally, we have to provide a conclusion. To provide a conclusion can as well be easily transformed to conclude, right? Another advice in the use of verb will be to minimize the use of there is or there are. Sometimes those words are immaterial within text, as we can see in this example. The data confirm that there is a link between library usage and exam results. And in actual sense, we can eliminate this that there is, and the sentence will still make sense in itself. So we can say that the data confirm a link between library usage and exam results, right? We've eliminated this that there is because it is redundant within the text, but then it makes your text long and what's the word now? Unusually long, things that you actually don't need. But then this brings me to the relationship between nouns and adverbs, right? Especially when we have a singular noun or a plural noun. And here we are going to do another exercise. And we are going to see collective nouns in play. So remember, we have singular nouns and we have plural nouns. So for instance, the boy loves to dance. The boy is a singular noun and it goes with a plural verb, loves. The boy loves to dance. But if we have a collection of boys, we can then say the boys love to dance. So you see the difference between loves and love because they are interchangeably tied to singular noun or plural noun. Now I want you to do a bit of exercise for me in your mind, right? Let's have a look at these 6 examples here. And I want you to put an is or are in the space. The government dash, hoping that online voting will attract more young people. So I'll give you 30 seconds to try and figure out. You can write it down or memorize what your answers are, and then we'll discuss it. Just 30 seconds. The government is, I believe that's for number 1. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, so by now I believe you must have your answers in your head already. So let's discuss this. The government can be a singular as well, a plural noun, right? But the usage will now determine whether we see it as singular noun or a plural noun. A tip, well, we'll see the tip as we go on. The government in the first example here is a singular noun. The government as a unit, the government as one single unit, is hoping that online voting will attract more young people to vote. But let's look at the second example. It says the government dash all. When you see the word all, it simply shows you that there is a collection of things within that unit. There is a collection of things within that unit. And in this instance, we mean collection of people in government. So the government are all nervous about the report, which is going to be published tomorrow. It simply states that every member of this particular government, every member is nervous. So the government are all nervous. In the second example, which I see often, is about family. How do we take the word family, whether it's a singular or a plural noun? But in this example, obviously in number 3, you already see all. So all indicates a collection of things. So number 3 states that, yeah, someone raised hand. Yeah, is that for a question? Yeah, if it is for your question, kindly ask, and then we'll continue. Okay. So in the first one, we have that every member of this family are doctors, right? His family are all doctors. But in the second one, it says his family, his family as a unit is the oldest in the country. Every country possibly have the oldest family, yeah? So in this instance, his family is the oldest in the country. So we see from number 3 and Number two, that they have all, which is an indication that it is a collection of things. However, number 5 and 6, we don't have anything like all. So how do we determine whether they are singular or plural? Number 5, Manchester United. For the record, I'm not a Manchester United fan. I'm a Chelsea fan. Fortunately, yes, I am. I don't know why I'm using Manchester United in this example. Yeah, but number 5 says Manchester United dash the world's most famous football club. So in this instance, Manchester United is a singular unit, right? Manchester United is the world's most famous club. That's brilliant. The Biendu. That's a brilliant answer there. And then in number 6, we have Manchester United are looking forward to meeting Valencia in the final next week. So it is every member of Manchester United Football Club, whether you are the fan or you're the coach or players, as a unit, all of them are looking forward to this final. So this is about verbs. Let's dive into adverbs. And an adverb is simply a word that modifies or describes a verb, an adjective, or itself, or or another adverb. So we see example. They tell us what is going on, right? They tell us what is going on and possibly how it is going on. And in research, adverbs can be used effectively to demonstrate a point. Yeah, they can be used effectively to demonstrate a point. And actually, effectively is an adverb, right? But when you use too many adverbs in a sentence, it makes the sentence to lose its meaning, right? So we are going to see some examples of the good use of adverbs and the examples of a bad use of adverb. For a good use of adverb, let's see this example. It was a poorly orchestrated research. It was a poorly orchestrated research. The verb here is orchestrated, right? But the poorly is laying emphasis on how this research was carried out. And in this instance, it says poorly. So it shows or it modifies or gives emphasis on what the verb is actually doing. Let's see another example. Our result shows that the method proposed in this study significantly outperformed the other methods. Significantly. We are not just saying that our research outperforms, the result of our research outperforms the others, but we are laying emphasis on the fact that our result significantly outperforms all the other methods that are in existence. So if we just say that our result outperforms the others, it makes sense. At least we know that you have a good result, but we don't know how much better your result is when compared to the other results generated by the other methods. But when we lay emphasis on what the verb outperform actually indicates, then we can use this significant. But there are situations that we've all seen where adverbs can be overused. And this example, just think about this and in your mind, how the meaning of this text has been lost. It says our sources are really good because they truly state their rigorously informed opinion. It is simple to say that our sources are good because they state their informed opinion, right? Or even say our results are good because they state their rigorous informed opinion. As easy as that. But when we add so many adverbs to our text, it makes our text to lose its meaning. And in so doing, please avoid intensive adverbs as much as you can, because they do not actually intensify, but they weaken your words. So things like really, actually, truly, very, extremely, when speaking, we can use these words, no problem. But when writing, it is advised that you minimize the use of these intensive adverbs. Yeah, there is no, that's a good question. How many adverbs could be used in a sentence? Actually, there is no conventional number of adverbs that we can use. But the point is that once your sentence loses its meaning, or once it becomes difficult for someone to understand what you are writing about because of the many number of adverbs that you have there, then it doesn't make much sense, right? There is no convention on how many nouns or verbs or adverbs or what have you that we can have in a sentence. But like I said, the point is to keep it short and simple, your sentences, and make it connected to the overall theme of your writing. I hope that helps. So we're moving on to adjectives, right? And again, great. An adjective is a word that modifies a noun phrase, or a pronoun, right? And the semantic role of an adjective is to change the information given by the noun. Just like the adverbs, enhances the significance of a verb, an adjective also helps a noun to change the information, or it has that semantic role to change the information. This methodology has been an effective tool for conducting research. So the word effective is the adjective that is modifying our noun, which is the methodology. It is simply saying that methodology has been effective, right? And another example would be Smith's 2010 investigations provided more valid results, right? We can say that it provided results, but valid as an adjective is acting on the plural noun results, okay? And then changing the meaning of that result, because result can be good or bad, but the adjective is, telling us that it is a valid result. And we can see another example. It says, one fundamental requirement of the study was the use of female participants. We can simply say, one requirement of the study was the use of female participants. But how then do we show that the requirement, which is a noun, of female participants is very important? How do we show that? Then we use the word a fundamental requirement. We can see one more example, which says one leading theory is that children learn faster than adults. Well, learn some certain aspects faster than adults. So here we see two adjectives. One is leading. We can simply say one theory is that children learn these aspects than adults. But how do we then lay emphasis on, how well they learn and what theory we are talking about, right? We then say the leading theory is that children learn these aspects faster. We can as well, instead of saying the information was not discovered, as in this example, the information was not discovered during the first investigation, but we can say this significant information, just to lay emphasis on how important that noun is in that sentence. This significant information was not discovered during the first investigation. But there is what we call compound adjectives, right? Compound adjectives. Compound adjectives simply mean when we put two or more words together, to collectively modify a noun or a phrase, right? When we put two or more words together. And in putting them together, we make use of hyphen to connect those words, make use of hyphen. And when these words are connected, they assume a singular role. They assume a singular role instead of plural. I'm not sure if you can see this image at the top here. It says the 2 days old, whatever. But the use of plural here is quite wrong, right? Because we are putting these words together into one, they become a singular unit. So instead of saying a 2 days old, we say a 2-day-old chick, right? Instead of saying 20 pages or a 20 pages report, we say a 20-page report. But when you omit these hyphens, it significantly alters the meaning of the sentence, as we can see from this image. Here we have an alligator and a man, right? And the first one says, I saw a man eating alligator. This refers to the alligator as one that eats man, a man eating alligator, because we have a hyphen. But when we say, I saw a man eating alligator, that means that this man is eating alligator. So you see the significance of, or the importance of having your hyphen to demonstrate whether this is a compound adjective or not. When you miss that, then it becomes a bit problematic to understand the sentence. So here are some examples of the use of compound sentence or compound adjectives in research and up-to-date data. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The study presented a record-breaking result. Next, we are going to look at punctuations. Look at punctuations. And we use punctuations to vary sentence structure and support meaning. Sorry, I'm rushing. I have quite a lot of things to cover, so I'm trying to rush through them. Hopefully, this is recorded and or is on YouTube, actually. You can see it subsequently. And punctuation marks contributes to continuity. So by continuity, we mean how the sentences flow from one idea to another and how they are connected together as well. And sometimes or oftentimes, punctuations mirror speeches, right? Sometimes they mirror speeches, but actually when you are speaking is good, then you can mirror, your punctuation can mirror your speech. But we'll go ahead and see some examples of this. Under punctuations, we are going to discuss semicolon, colon, comma, apostrophe, dash, hyphen, quotation marks, and parenthesis. So these are the things that we'll focus on around punctuation. Semicolon, they are used to connect two different or two independent clauses. So remember that clauses are, short text that can actually in itself stand as a sentence. Yeah. We see, sorry, my mouse is frozen. Here we see two examples. The frog is green. It is also bumpy. Remember that this is a clause. The frog is green, and it can actually stand as a sentence in its own. And it is also bumpy. It's also a clause that, essentially can stand as its own. But instead of leaving these two, using a comma to connect these two independent clauses, we make use of a semicolon. Semicolons are also used to, list items or to separate items within a list. Here we see an example that says the number of books issued has reduced dramatically. In 2010, there are 25,000 books were borrowed, semicolon. In 2009, 19,000, semicolon. By 2010, only 15,000 books were issued. So we see how each element of the list is being separated by the use of a semicolon. So that is what you actually need to do when you have a list of things. Then you can make use of semicolon to separate them in your research or in your writing. Next, we see colon. Colon is used to introduce a quote, a list, an explanation, or a conclusion, right? This is the need for a colon. And in this example, we see the good use of a colon and the bad use of a colon. I had to purchase the following books from the bookstore, semicolon, and then you list the books that you have purchased, right? Instead of using a comma, a semicolon gives you that pause before you start listing the books that you have borrowed. A comma can be used to separate items in a list. Yeah. So we can say English. What courses are you doing in school? I can say English, maths, and psychology. Yeah, I can use comma to separate them. And I can also use comma to introduce phrases like however, comma, nevertheless, comma, in fact, comma, as you introduce some words. However, misplacing or omitting commas can alter the meaning of a sentence. If you omit commas, it can significantly alter the meaning of a sentence. Here is an example. Nonetheless, I had to go to the hospital. So it's like nonetheless has no significance in this text. But when we have a comma, nonetheless, I had to go to the hospital. So let's quickly go into apostrophe. An apostrophe is used to mark the omission of a letter within a sentence. For instance, the library isn't open today. So remember that this isn't simply means is not. The library is not open today. So we use the apostrophe to show the omission of the character or the letter O. But then there are so many ways people misuse this apostrophe. As in this example, the student's research result. The student's research result. This is talking about one single student's research report. But the second one, you see where the apostrophe is after the S. This is because the students here is plural. The collection of students, their result, yeah? The students' research result. So this second one is talking about a collection of students, while the first one is talking about a single student, okay? Another mistake people make is, putting apostrophe where it is not supposed to. So remember that apostrophe is used to show that there is an omission of something there. It is all yours. This text simply means it is all yours is. Yeah, it is all yours is. But this second one simply means it is all yours. It is all yours. So let's get that in our minds when we write. Another example is the dog found its bone. Again, remember that this here means it is. Then it translates to the dog found its bone, which doesn't make sense. But we can simply say the dog found its bone. One thing that I've discovered that people don't know quite much is the use of dash, the emdash and the endash. The em dash is the longer dash that is used to separate sentences or add a break within a sentence. Whereas the shorter one, which is the en, is just used to mark ranges. but it is also different from hyphen, but we'll see that shortly. Sorry, my mouse is playing up. So the em dash, we see an example here. The people who did not attend the meeting could only escape the fire. Remember that the em dash is used to add a break or put some emphasis within a sentence. And actually, we can remove this emphasis here and the sentence still makes sense. Yeah, the people could only escape the fire. But we are using this em dash to lay some emphasis or put a break within the sentence by emphasizing who are these people, the people who did not attend the meeting. And then we use the shorter dash to show ranges. Yeah, the chapter extends from pages 1 to 25. So the small dash here is an indication of the word to. Hyphen is again used to connect compound noun. So it's used to connect nouns together. It can also used to connect words when they are used as an adjective. So remember our compound adjective when we discussed that. It is a little known fact. It is a little known fact. We can use it to connect, when figures are used as adjective, a 20-minute presentation or a 1-hour presentation, a 3-year-old article, a 20-page long report. And we can also use hyphen when we are, talking about a title, vice president. And we can also use hyphen as a prefix to text, for instance, prenatal or pre-study. Quotation marks is the next one. We have double quotation mark and single quotation mark. Double quotation mark is used for direct quoting of someone's speech. You are directly quoting someone's speech, whereas the single quote is used within a quote, right? Within the double quote. So we can see an example here. He said, I meant to say the paper is well written. Yeah, single quote and double quote at the end, because he said, this is what he said. Yeah, but the paper is well written is also an emphasis within the outer quote of what that person says. The next thing we are going to look at is parenthesis. So parenthesis is an afterthought. So when you are writing something, you may have omitted something or an explanation, and then you put it in brackets, right? So it is a word, a phrase, or sentence that is used as a passage, it does not grammatically complete the sentence, but the sentence is complete without it. Yeah. So if you remove parentheses, the sentence is still very good. There's no problem. But we use the parentheses to just highlight something that we have already missed. I'm cautious of time now. So like I said, if you remove the parentheses, the main point is not changed. It still remains the same. Let's have a look at this example. So here we have that she went back to India after completing her doctorate degree and is now an assistant professor. So if we remove the parentheses, it still makes valid sense. She went back to India and is now an assistant professor, right? But we use the brackets to lay emphasis on the fact that this was after she completed her doctorate degree. Next is academic writing style. And first of them is the use of academic tone. So when writing in academics, we assume the third person and not the first person. So use the third person presentation instead of the first person. For example, I, when you say I, we, us, they, them, you're more like writing in the first person. But when you omit these identities, like I, like we, then it becomes a third person. For example, I think that versus it can be argued that, yeah, or it can be thought that. So you're not laying emphasis on yourself, but you are still making the same, passing the same information. Avoid the use of slang in academic writing. Yeah, avoid the use of slang. It was fab versus it was successful. So it was successful is more professional term to use. Try as much as possible to use the full form of word instead of the short form. Like we have it's, isn't. Those are really not good, in academic writing. Use the full form of those words. So instead of saying can't, make use of cannot, right? And when speaking and writing, they most times are two different things. So don't talk or don't write as you talk, but rather talk as you write. That's the best form of speaking, actually. I've had so many people ask what to do. It's okay, but it doesn't really make sense, right? If you're writing it down, what to do doesn't make sense. But you can say, what do we do? Yeah, or what is it that needs to be done? Something like that. And be objective and not personal. Like I've said, avoid the use of I, we, us, and you, and things like that. When talking about evidence, don't show your feeling. Sometimes you see people, the result of their research is significant, and they write their feeling in the text. We don't need to see your feeling in the text, right? So instead of saying, I feel or I thought that this research or this result significantly outperforms the others, we can easily say there is a lot of evidence that, from the result of this research, there is a lot of evidence that this, that. Instead of saying, I feel that this research significantly outperforms the others. Write simply and clearly. Yeah, it's just like the question asked earlier, how much adverbs or verbs or adjectives do we have in a text? As long as it makes your work concise and simple and clear, then by all means use it. But if it doesn't make your work easy to read, then it becomes difficult. So use short sentences over long and complex sentences, right? And use such words wherever possible instead of big grammatical text. So sometimes you're reading a text and you have to go and find your dictionary to actually understand what people are saying. So for instance, supernumerary. This is even a bit difficult for me to pronounce. Supernumerary is simply a word that means extra. So why not use extra? If I see supernumerary as it stands, I might not know the meaning. Then I have to go and look up my dictionary to understand the meaning first of all. Don't show you are big in grammar. Incorporate can easily mean use. Remunerate can easily mean pay. So make it simple. And use tentative language. I say use tentative language. But if you're presenting your research and the result of your research, you can use definite instead of tentative, okay? It is proven that this is definite. It is proven by this result that, yeah? But if you want to be gentle about it, you can say it can be seen or it may be shown that, that is the tentative style of writing. Another example of the definite is, it is always the case. You are definite about it. It is always the case. But if you want to be subtle about it, writing tentatively, leaving a bit of doubt, you can say it is often the case that. Yeah, often and always. Always is definite, but often also means that this happens a lot, but probably not 100% of the time. Now, we don't have much time, but I want you to take 20 seconds to think about what is wrong about this sentence. In this study, we prioritized the age of participants over their behavior. Just think about what is wrong with this sentence. Anyone, if you have the answer, just put it in the chat. It reads well. It doesn't appear as if there is any problem. There is an answer here. In this study, we prioritize. That's okay, but that's not the first person. Okay. Yeah, but really not. I mean, both of your answers are correct. They are brilliant findings from this, but there is more that I'm looking for. The study is intended to find out. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, let me now review the main thing that is wrong with this text. When writing, know when you're writing in American language or American English versus British English, and don't mix them together. Yeah, and don't mix them together. So in this example, prioritized with an S is the British version, and then we have behavior, which is the American version. But the English version of the British version of behavior, we have a U, here. We have a U here. So remember that when you are writing, if you're writing with a British English, retain it and write it all through. But if you're writing in American English, also retain that and write it all through. So that's the main point. And here are some different examples of text, their English version and the American version. Here we have organize. America says organize with a Z. License, CE, license, SE. They mean the same thing. Center, RE versus ER. Acknowledgement. British will put an E, but America won't put anything. Okay. So let's go down to general advice, the structure, right? There are different ways you structure articles, but first of all, you need to check with the journal or conference for their own particular style, their citation style, referencing, their heading, how you structure your tables and figures. These are important for you to check, and also know your audience. So by knowing your audience, are you writing for, are you writing for engineering or science or what have you? And for your sentences, just I'll finish in two minutes. Sorry, I'm going above the time. For your sentences, they need to be united. They need to convey a unit of thought and transition from one sentence to another, right? And if you have several clauses, you remember what we said about making use of semicolon to kind of connect them together. And when you're writing, try as much as possible to place your subject towards the beginning of the sentence. And the next is paragraph, right? Please avoid short paragraphs in your writing. Avoid short paragraphs by all means. We've seen cases where people are writing literature review, for example, and when they discuss each article, they make it a paragraph. Each article becomes a paragraph. That doesn't make sense. Each paragraph should convey a topic, a theme, and this theme should also be connected in some way with the previous paragraph, right? So it becomes a flow and direction of thought that you're writing. And the first sentence or two in a paragraph usually present the theme or the topic of that paragraph. And like I said, please do avoid short paragraphs. And then we have transition. When you are transiting from a sentence to another, there is usually a link that maintains the flow of thought. So you can say then, next, after, while, since. Those are connective words. You can also use things that we call contrast links, such as nevertheless, although, however, and also in your writing, try as much as possible to signpost your audience. Now, general advice. So for academic writing, it is important to, first of all, outline, have a structure of what your work is going to be like, right? And then for each section, they say abstract, introduction, methodology, and what have you. Draft it, yeah? Draft it. First of all, have an outline, and then draft and redraft. But when you're drafting, also always make sure that you number each draft and save them, because you might need to go back to them at some point. Always save them and number them, and check references against whatever journal you're submitting to. But importantly, be consistent. So if you're using COVID-19, these 3 different versions, choose one version of it and use it consistently throughout your report. And for editing, please do cut unnecessary words. So for instance, helpful tips. Tips is already helpful. Terrible tragedy is already terrible, okay? Delete unnecessary adverbs. So if you don't need so many of them, please delete them. And proofread your work. Get other people to help you proofread as well. And sometimes after writing, take some time off from that work and then come back with a clear mind to read through it. And for abbreviation, before you use an abbreviation in your text, for example, Robert Gordon University, RGU, make sure you have stated the full text before you put the abbreviation. It is very important. Then in summary, please know your audience, write clearly and concisely, have an idea of the use of grammar. I sometimes make use of Grammarly. There is a software called Grammarly, which you can use in Word. You can use it in Google Chrome. You can use it in your Outlook as well, just to help you check text. But remember that these are not 100%. So please don't dwell so much. Don't put all your trust in them, but they are actually helpful. And someone mentioned initially plagiarism. Please avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism simply means taking someone's idea, thought, or even text as your own. At most journals we find you out. I think there is a certain number of plagiarism score that is allowed for each journal. Right. Sorry again that I'm a little bit above time, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Professor, for giving us your valuable time. And you have really explained very well that how your document should be, how you're supposed to actually write that academic research. And you have actually included those important points that one must keep in their mind before writing a research paper. Thank you so much, Professor. We are open for the question answer round. Can we take some questions from the chat, if you allow?
So it says, if you're using your own published paper only, so it will be referred as plagiarism. Right, so this is something that happens. So this question is, if you are taking some text from your previous research, is it considered plagiarism? Yes, it is considered plagiarism. And in this instance, it is called self-plagiarism, right? So you don't publish the same thing twice. So once it is published, you refer to it and not copy from it, okay? When you do that, then you are presenting that same thing twice, which again does not make a lot of sense. Yeah,
very well said. Very well said.
Yeah, so in summary, it is considered plagiarism as well.
True.
It's not that it is not allowed at all, right? But the use of it should be minimal. So you can refer to it and then pick some text. So let's take, for instance, that you've used the same data set for a previous research and you're using it for another research, right? You can describe that data set in a different use of words, but then refer that it has been used in your previous research. But don't just copy the way you describe that data set in your previous research and put it word by word in the new research. That doesn't work.
Very well explained, Professor. I'm really very happy to have you here. It is an online session, but definitely we would like to have you in person in our campus. Thank you very much for your time and efforts. Thank you so much, sir. It has been a great, great session. And after this session, I will share the feedback of all the candidates, all the participants. You can see some of them here. Some of the participants have put in their feedbacks about the session, and yes, you can see that, and they're really very happy, and we are also very glad to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here myself. Sorry, I'm taking a few pictures of the comments.
Not a problem, sir. Not a problem. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Until you guys have a nice time. Hopefully we see you again.
Yes, for sure.
Bye.
We will connect soon, sir. We will connect soon.
No worries. No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your days. Bye.
Yes, we will. We will.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, am I audible now? Okay. Okay. So I was saying that you were great participants. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we will see you again tomorrow. We are having our session tomorrow, day 3. And the session will be from 9:30 to 10:30. Please, you are requested to join 5 minutes before. And the topic of tomorrow's session will be sourcing publishing house for submitting book proposals. So again, once again, I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. So tomorrow's session will start from 9:30 onwards. You all are requested to join by 9:25. Any other question you have, you may ask. You're welcome. We are closing the session now. You can reach us. You have our email addresses. You can reach us if you have any questions further. Thank you very much.